It's a spinning.
How have you been?
Dude, I have been so swamped with this end of the year school stuff. Something that it's not complaining because I got kids and it's just a part of the game.
Yeah.
But today's the last day of school. Here's what we usually do.
Okay.
So after school, Julie's gonna go, pick up the girls. They're on a half day today. I'm gonna
Okay.
then when they get home, and this is gonna be after the podcast, I'm gonna take them to Chick-fil-A because hey, let's kick off the summer, with a little fun. Then I'm gonna take them to the pool, and then we're gonna go swim, and then we're gonna come home and kind of let them like watch some shows and kind of relax, after the pool to kind of calm down because then I'm taking them to a baseball game tonight,
Okay.
and so that's what we're gonna do now. Traditionally, every year on the last day, we do an out in the back yard camp out. Where we're looking at evolving that actually into going to a campsite as the kids get older. But I don't feel like packing up at 2, 3 in the morning when the kids are like, can we go inside? So
Yeah.
it's like we're gonna get there at some point. But we're gonna do the outdoor, the backyard camp out tomorrow, assuming that it's not insanely like rainy in the
Mm.
area or something like that. So yeah,
That sounds like a good bunch of festivities. Were you a big camper growing up? Did you go
I was
camping a
a,
lot?
I was a Boy Scout.
Okay.
So I did a lot of camping, a lot of miserable camping.
I respect that. I was a Cub Scout. I think I didn't even make it to Weebelo. Um,
The weebs.
yeah, but we we my uncle and aunt did a lot of camping, so I would do it with them. But
Mhm.
my mom and dad, not campers. And my wife, not a camper. Me, I would love to do it. Like I've done long bike trips on the Greater Allegheny Passage where you just bring a little tent with you and you sleep in that little tent. Um, but yeah, so we don't get a lot of that in.
The Susano, welcome, says, yo, just listening today. Thank you so much for those of you who are going to be hanging out. We're going to wait till the crew gets in here. We're going to have a jam-packed show. After the show, Chris is actually returning. He's going to be live streaming, and the YouTube side of this will all redirect to his YouTube channel and on Twitch. I just have to be, on point to have us raid his channel as well. Real Kitty Hawk tier 3 sub 57 freaking months on a 24-month streak. That's a 2-year streak at tier 3. Holy crap.
That's commitment.
All right, I'm going to unmute Cole because he came in. I had a little background noise. I'm here like a fan, Cole.
Oh, shoot. Is it better now?
No.
Yeah,
Oh,
still here,
no. I'm so sorry. I'll try
No,
and
you're
figure
good,
this
dude.
out on my end. It might be my PC. Sorry. One sec.
Oh, you're fine. I'm going to just mute you. And yeah, there you go. You already muted yourself. Good. That confirms that he can, quote unquote, mute himself in that regards. That's great. And the multi-watch coming in over on the YouTube side of things as well. Freaking incredible, dude. We really appreciate you, man. Hopefully you are doing good. Mark, how was your week? I just kind of gave the rundown of, summer festivities.
It's good. We're busy with work. I have a conference I'm speaking at in Vegas here in June for my adult job consulting. Caesar's Palace, not the real Caesar's Palace. I've never been to Vegas, and I'm excited, but also like I kind of want to get in and get back to my family. Really,
That's the Vegas experience, though. Like I cap out at 3 days max in Vegas before I am. It's just so much sensory overload, so much stuff is thrown at you. And we went and had the last time I think it was in Vegas. We actually had my bachelor party.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's going to be 14 years ago.
That's a place to have it. Yeah. So yeah, doing that and just busy with work and then busy on the content side too with YouTube. And then my baby's getting baptized tomorrow, which is exciting. We have like 30 people coming over. It's been a bit stressful getting things ready. I just went to the liquor store and the beer distributor and spent about like $180 combined. So, hey, Italian Catholics. What else? We're gonna drink some wine and drink some beer, and so plus Memorial Day weekend. It's my wife's birthday too. So
yeah, exactly. That's what's like. It's a 3-day weekend. That's gonna be really great. And dude, congratulations. That's awesome that the little ones get baptized.
Yeah, very excited about that. We had to wait a bit because we had to get logistics nailed down with his godparents. And so,
of course, we've Julie's sister had twins this year. So they're still working on that scheduling of baptism. And in fact, for those of you who don't know, like there is a lot of requirements to make sure that everything's set in stone, because there's definitely been some historical, like, oh no, that actually didn't happen, and was, we got to go and try to somewhat correct the those things. And so the original godparent of that was going to be for one of the twins is unfortunately not able to do it because she never registered at her parish, so that she had no evidence that she's like, yes, I'm a practicing Catholic, I can be a godparent, like in this regards. And so I was like, oh man, we learned a lot. Like, and so Julie's getting called in, from the Audible, because at some point, like at 6 kids, I think they just kind of wave you through, oh, you've had 6 baptized,
you know what to do.
You've paid attention, hopefully.
It's funny because like some parishes I know can, want to be very thorough in the paperwork, and some, like my cousin lived in Florida for a while and he just walked into one, got registration paperwork, and then became godparent to his nephew. It's just like, that was a completely different process than other stories I've heard. But yeah, no, work's, I'm excited because work's just been so crazy, and it's going to be a good weekend to just sit by the pool and relax. That's really it. Playing some Paper Mario.
Yeah,
that's fun. Yeah.
Saw you streaming that. What made that your next choice?
Well, I had it pre-ordered for a while, and it's really like figuring out like streaming games. Like, it's hard right now because limited time to play, right? And so I'm prioritizing YouTube. I think that's a better use of my limited time. And for that,
you're almost to 700. I saw, like, and I don't know if you crossed over that as of today.
I didn't look earlier, but it's just so, like, the news is a fun part, but then also gaming retrospectives and reviews is really what I want to do. And
yeah,
I got to fit in the games I'm going to do that on as wherever I can. So
yeah, that's the thing. Like, when one of the things that I've seen for me with because you're doing multi-streaming, but also like, I'm not trying to build a live streamed audience, right? To do that, that's just not a thing that I think you can really truly do unless you're like insanely wealthy, as a parent. And I am a parent, but I'm not insanely wealthy. So that, that the restriction means like, no, I'm, so I've been archiving all the VODs into kind of the members category, which I think has been helping out from the YouTube algorithm, just like, oh, okay, yeah, here's content, you guys have access to it. And then we launched the Ginger Prime TV Clips channel, which coincides with the rebrand over the Twitch to Ginger Prime TV, to be able to take this the content and then just kind of clip it up into the most interesting bits. And so that way, like when I do, like this show, when we do like a live stream, it's like, okay, there's some, a little bit of content flowing over that way. It's like Chili has joined in, and we got Chris to the stage. Hello, sir.
I was over testing my own stream.
Hello.
As my NVIDIA broadcast broke. Now I'm worried about mine.
Oh no.
Hi.
Chris, I got the YouTube set to raid your YouTube channel, since I saw that you got that stream scheduled, and all I need is just I think I'll remember it, but before we wrap up today's show, let's make sure I put the Twitch side on to raid over to Gaming 2 Kinda, which I think would be great. And I'm excited. Chris is back with a spreadsheet stream. I can't wait. Dawntrail almost here.
So I did a test stream, and we were jacking with some things. StreamYards is like by far the most optimal tool for spreadsheet streams.
Yes.
Broadcasting still images. It is dreadful for anything with a video component. So you couldn't use it for reaction. You couldn't use it for gameplay. They just have their video bitrate set too low, and you don't have the granular level of control that you do of like true broadcast software.
I have an exciting tip for you then, because what you can do is, if you schedule the content through StreamYard, and then what you do is on the like your Prism or whatever you're using to then push out, you don't actually go live on StreamYard for the gameplay stuff. You go live from your source code, and it should remain and maintain that hook. And so you would still have the shared comments to be able to toss and highlight on screen. That might be something you want to test out. We've done that in the past. But it is a little bit more work on setting up the scene, because you can't only capture what's being displayed here. And so you would toss that in, and then you would use the game from that. So there's things. There's
If Prism can have the highlight comment feature, then I would never look back.
Oh, dude, yeah, like that's YouTube. What's up, man? Like it's like that would be like streaming that as a feature. I think is such a nice thing that StreamYard just does so well.
Look down here, so I'm not staring up all the time.
Testing with Cole. Cole, are you were you able to kind of take a look at your mic? When again, I get an audio check on you.
I think so. I think I might have got it, but I might be wrong. Do I sound okay?
Popping.
You're choppy. So the audio, the background audio is fine now. So
but you're popping.
A little popping. A little pop. All right, let's see here. Let's make
community reference.
No, like pop. They pop.
It's a great show.
Yeah. Dude, such a good show. It was like that was it was such a bummer because you have the gas leak year, right? Which is like, hey, we had this season and it just didn't really go and work well. And then you come back and it's like everything kind of references like, yeah, that year, maybe it didn't happen. I don't know. We were all huffing gas at that time.
I didn't watch it until 2020 for the first time ever, and it quickly became a show that I rewatched multiple times.
Yeah,
like, there's just something new I catch every time.
100%.
I have never watched it.
Oh, it's good.
Oh man, dude, Community's great.
It's some of the best of American sitcoms.
Yeah. And if like I watched Rick and Morty first, so that was my first exposure to Dan Harmon comedy, and I will say Community I think is better, mostly because it's not as cynical. Like there's a lot of like good balance of dark and positive comedy in it, and yeah, it's really some of the best I think in the last few decades.
All right, you guys ready to get started?
It's Cole working.
We'll see.
Is it a bit better? I am so sorry. I don't know why it broke.
I'm sorry, dude. You keep it's so choppy. I don't know what's going on. I'm so sorry.
Oh God, I am so sorry. I can stay muted. Sorry.
Yeah, stay muted and hop in on anything that you want to.
I wonder if it's also. Do you have the echo cancellation and stuff on StreamYard? Because that can sometimes cause issues with the NVIDIA noise cancellation. Maybe.
Yeah, it's possible.
Maybe, but you guys keep going. I'll try and figure it out on my end. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. All right, I'm gonna run the intro, and we got a podcast to do. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crystal Core Radio Podcast. Brian here with the roundtable to discuss the latest in gaming news and rumors, as this week has just been jam-packed with all kinds of stuff. It feeds the internet for another week on the continual decline of the Xbox brand. We'll see what ultimately happens. It shakes out. But let's go around the roundtable, talk about what we're playing, and then we're going to dive into the news and talk about some Dawntrail, as the last time Chris and I were together for the show, the live letter kicked off and we saw and learned a bunch of stuff about the upcoming expansion. Let's start with Chris, actually, who has a stream right after this. So if you're listening to it, go and check it out. We're gonna raid. We're gonna toss over to him, and we're gonna bring back the Spreadsheet Street stream. Sure. Chris, what's going on, dude?
It's going good. I did a test stream right before this to adjust to non-partner bit rates, and we're having some fun messing with that. This week, my game time was off and on. It was pretty sporadic, and what's great is there's a little game that lets you liberate some democracy when you have only a handful of moments. So I was diving. There's something satisfying about popping bugs. I know a lot of people have a preference on robots versus bugs. I'm definitely enjoying the bugs more than the robots.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like a break. I like the bugs more, but I do like fighting against the robots occasionally as a break between the two. Like I will jump into the robots after a while after doing too many bugs.
I'm just in the lobby. I don't want us to decide where we're going. I'm happy to mix it up, but I get a little excited about the bugs.
They
like,
definitely
all right, bugs.
Yeah, they definitely offer two different experiences to some degree. Like the mechons are, I feel like I get destroyed more. Honestly, like it's a lot more hectic and I'm running away more. Where the bugs, I just kind of like, it really gets into that Starship Troopers mode for me.
The with the Beckons, obviously the references to Star Wars. There's been moments where I've been just running through the jungle and it's late, like it feels like the AT-ATs are just right behind me, just blasting a laser just flying past my head. So they did an incredible job.
Talking
what about
about
you, Mark?
ATTs, though, I had a sorry. Talking about ATT stuff, though, I had a laugh last night. I call it luckily on as a clip where I landed on top of one of the walkers, and I'm just there giggling as the walker's trying to knock me off as I landed on top of it. Yeah, one of the big ones.
Nice.
Just like...
Nice. How about you, Mark? What are you playing, man?
So this week I finished Xenoblade 1. Amazing. I'm just blown away. Like that game, every chapter I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. And then by the end of it too, I'm like, game's over, and they still do something else with the world where I was just like, this is really impressive. And I was like, all right, I'll wait to start Xenoblade 2. And then by the next day I was like, nope, I'm starting that. So I'm getting through that series, and it's just such a cool one. I'm working on the retrospectives for those. I picked up Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, started playing that. But besides that, it's just been busy with work. And then to your point about gaming leaks and rumors, I've been covering a lot of that on the channel with Xbox Showcase and PlayStation Showcase. And I'm excited because I'm seeing today, like a lot of them seem to be very, very real. So it seems like we're in for a good June.
All right. Sorry, Chili. We'll go with you. What's you playing, dude?
Mostly been playing Fantasy 14, trying to get ready for Dawntrail.
What's your prep? So, like, when you say get ready for Dawntrail, you're a veteran. You've gotten things leveled. You've got probably, I would assume, plenty of gil. Yeah. Well, like, what is it for you that is prepping?
I want more gil. I want more gil.
Obviously.
Well, like I've got a raid group now, so if I can help with some people with cost of potions, cost of gear, like I don't know how much it'll cost it yet. So until I'd rather have more gil than I need, and then have extra if need be, and then not worry about the gil. Like, so yeah, and then just like doing like there's some mounts I'm still missing, just random bits and bobs. Like,
are you going for the Mountain Dew mount?
I can't. It's America only.
Oh, I didn't know it was just US only.
Wait. There's a Mountain Dew mount?
There's a Mountain Dew mount.
Yeah. Which like I don't like that stuff, but I at least like Butterfingers. I'm not a big Mountain Dew fan.
I'm not a Mountain Dew fan at all. And I'm like, I think that's a mount that I'm just gonna miss because I still didn't get my pizza emote.
And if it was like all Dr. Pepper
yeah
products or all, like if it was like a family where it's like, oh, I could go get,
Yeah, we bought Dr. Pepper just the other day for the kids' school, like, field day or whatever. It's like, all right, yeah, fun.
So like Coca-Cola,
at least it's not too much though.
And like you can take a can and it like gets you a discount off of the tickets, but like it's a breadth of Coca-Cola products that have it on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but at least it's not.
You can't.
At least it's not too many Mountain Dew that you need to buy. Like if you buy the special ones, the special Dews that are in specific stores, it's only 3. You only need 3 bottles.
It's one of those promo things where you buy you get like a code on the. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to revisit this Butterfinger. Was there Butterfinger gear in Final Fantasy 14?
There was. Now Butterfinger, you get a chocolate. There's a little green leafy mount that flies around in the game, and you can get a chocolate version of that. And but you it wasn't clear if you had to buy it with like pre-tax dollars or like if the sales tax counted towards the price. So I made sure I spent the total gross amount prior, and I ended up overbuying Butterfingers. And then I get to the register and the lady's like, oh, I swiped a coupon for you, they're on sale. And I was like, stop, because then I had to go back and get more Butterfingers to get my receipt, because you need it all in one receipt. So I was like, well, wait here. So I try not to eat a whole lot of candy because I can't stop. And I had 9 Butterfingers in a day, I think. And I was like, it's okay, I'll eat them over 2 weeks. No, it was 28 hours.
Yeah, they're right next to you. You're like, what?
I ate as soon as I finished one, I was like, well, I might as well have one more.
Yeah.
This is why I keep all my candy in a different room. So if I break it off, so that way I have to keep going backwards and forth. I'm like, I'm having to walk to the kitchen to get it. So that way I'm not going to eat all of it. I'm lazy. If I'm playing games, I don't want to walk all the way to the kitchen. It's not far. I'm not saying it's a huge amount of distance, but it's enough for me not to want to do it.
We have a giant candy box because obviously Halloween, 6 kids. We constantly are just like, all right, so we have this giant box that we store really high that only I can get to. So it's like, oh, we're gonna dole out some candy. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna go get that and bring it down and then put it back promptly. Otherwise, you'll find the kids all just bouncing off the walls.
Yeah.
But
I've learned
yeah,
over the years
I-
I can't have something in my house like that, or I will just
Yeah.
eat it. But if like I do put it away behind like a bunch of stuff in the pantry, I'll forget about it. But yeah, my psychology is if it's there, I'm gonna eat it. Like
There's
I have
nothing more exciting than discovering something that you really like that you forgot about, and you're like, man, there's nothing here. Like I need to go to the grocery store. But wait,
Yep.
no, yes, I'm gonna eat this. This is wonderful.
that happened like 2 weeks ago on a cheat day for me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have a full-size payday that I completely forgot about, and I was very happy.
I'm
Let's,
so happy I'm allergic to nuts. I'm so limited on these snacks. I can't eat any of these that you're talking about.
Let's toss it over to Cole and see if his audio is working. What are you playing, dude?
So I'm mostly playing Final Fantasy 14. I might go for the Mountain Dew mount. I'm probably gonna ask one of my American friends to like send it to me because I'm up in Canada, and I'll be like, "Hey, can you do this?" Because it's worked for like that Butterfingers mount. I definitely have that. It worked for the pizza mount, so I'm probably gonna follow tradition and get that again. Also, I can relate totally to finding a chocolate bar and being like, "Oh my god, yes!"
It's a good day.
Good day.
Yeah.
For me, from a gameplay perspective, literally just cannot seem to set No Rest for the Wicked down. I still need to go spend some time because the Star Citizen patch 3.23 is live, and that is a massive change. And now the road is to 4.0, which will be sometime this fall, and that's where we're seeing like it's this year is I think massive. So I'm hopefully going to get some time in this weekend with some Star Citizen, and then after Star Citizen and No Rest for the Wicked, Diablo 4 Season 4 is out, and I'm hearing a lot of really good things. I'd like to go kind of play around with it and see what's going on with it. And then, again, just like the age of ARPG, somebody gifted me out the Vampire V Rising, excuse me. And I stepped into that, in which it's a big difference like from No Rest for the Wicked, but it's still, I think it's got its charm and lots of interesting things that are going about for it. Let's dive into the news.
One
ahead,
second
Chili.
before we move
Yeah.
on. Sorry.
Mhm.
I know we've talked about the Mountain Dew mount a little bit earlier, and I don't know if we're going to bring it up, but I will say one of the coolest things about this whole event has been the fact that the game, I don't know if it's community manager or whoever's in charge of the Mountain Dew gaming, he has a character called Big Sippin that he's been playing on Primal, and it's actually a legacy character. And he was talking about stuff like Hamlet and stuff like that from 1.0. He's got all different stuff from like 1.0 to 2.0 stuff, including like the Dalamud minion. He's like has all of these like really old stuff that he is on his account. Like, so obviously whoever's been playing is obviously a really old player on 14. So yeah, I found that kind of funny. So you can go check out Big Sippin'. I think it's on Marlboro Primal.
That's awesome. I like the name too. Big
Yeah.
Sippin' works well with Mountain Dew. All right, let's dive into the gaming news and rumors. The big one that was, we don't know if it's true at all, but if nothing else, like the reaction was to be expected that Xbox is going to be floating a $16 billion offer across Valve's desk to acquire Steam. What do you guys think about that? Like, my initial reaction was 16. That feels low, especially after the Activision Blizzard, but that's a whole different ball game. What do you guys think?
I mean, so from a rumor perspective, like I've never seen that account before that tweeted it out.
Mhm.
So I'm like, credibility wise, there are sites talking about it. It's just like most people that seem to have credibility are saying they don't know anything about it. But I find it funny because literally just the other day I was like, I don't know if a Microsoft handheld would appeal to me with my Steam Deck. But the idea of them just buying Steam, I was like, well, there you go. It's a Microsoft handheld now. If anything, it signifies Microsoft's committed to gaming. Like, there's people worried about Xbox going away. I'm like, if that's true, then that's not the case at all.
No, I think the hardware, like you said, with the Steam Deck and why, like that's the question that I see consoles having to answer, because you have these devices that are coming out at I would say competitive price point, even if not a bit expensive, like, but still at like $500. You're like, wait a minute, I can play all of my games on this, and then I can't play, like that on this console that's roughly this, and I can dock this to the TV, I think we're seeing an age of disruption within this entire space. And obviously, I think that's just going to continue to play out over the next couple of days. Now, I know that Microsoft has long wanted to buy Steam. Like they've tried to compete. We've seen within the world of social media, like the reason why Elon Musk bought Twitter was because you can't build your own ecosystems. Just people aren't going to be like, yeah, I'm going to go over to your ecosystem. You get a small fraction, but it is never going to equate to what it meant to be first and to really kind of hold that that market dominance. Go ahead, Chili.
That's what Microsoft said this generation about Xbox. They said that though they can do as well as they want with Series X and Series S, the issue is they lost the market share with the PS4 era. And the PS4 era was probably one of the most important eras in gaming for the longest time because of the forward compatibility that will be going forward from now on because of digital libraries. People were able, the PS4 did incredibly well compared to the Xbox One. And now, because of that, and a lot of people already have libraries on the PS4, and now that they're moving over to the PS5, albeit slowly, not 100% like over straight away, but they're more likely to buy a PS5 once there's games that they want because they already have all the games that they own on the PS4 now working on the PS5. Yes, Xbox technically has more with the 360 backwards compatibility that the PS4 lacks. The PS5 lacks, but PS5 does have a selection of PS2 and PS1 titles, and you kind of have PS3 titles, but only via cloud. But that's because PS3 was a hardware nightmare that nobody wants to work with ever again because it was hell, and nobody likes it.
They are starting to get those PS3 games to be native on PS5 slowly, but it's not all of them. But that's true. Like I am committed to my digital library. Right. And if Xbox buys Steam and my Steam library is now my Xbox library, I don't know. It just it answers that problem for them.
It breaks a couple things too, right? There are people that prefer playing Age of Empires in their Steam library than they do in their Xbox library because it means different things. All of this seems to be based on this one tweet. Right. Like that's where I track this back to. So where did that number come from? And like, how is that number high enough?
So, I mean, I believe there was an offer before to buy them for $8 billion, and they were like, no. Or overall, their market value is related to that. That's where when talking about it, people were saying like PC gamers might overvalue Steam because, like we see with like these epic deals. And Square Enix having those timed exclusives, I've just continued to wait because I don't want to have to maintain a digital library on this platform and this other platform, etc. So that in and of itself, like 16 billion though, still seems so small for the footprint of what this would mean for Microsoft.
Right. The number of indie devs that this would give them access to that rely on Steam as an ecosystem. I mean, Steam has kind of always been that true kind of third party. It almost feels neutral, right? Like, and something about Epic doesn't. Epic feels like they have their thumb on it. There's something about Steam that feels really neutral versus everybody else that has a platform. And I don't know if the Steam Deck kind of slowly changes that perception, but the fact that they didn't have a platform for so long to go with it has always felt like, hey, we're just here to distribute games. Do your thing.
They've tried. They've tried in the past, right? Because remember the Steam Box. They have tried in the past to make a separate platform.
They've tried,
succeeded,
but they don't have a lot of like, and they don't have like. It's not like, oh, there's a bunch of first-party Steam studios that are getting the top search results, or like they've always felt really neutral to me. And so this would shift that. This would get rid of that entirely. This would make Xbox just absolutely dominant. I mean, especially on PC. Like you think, oh, well, Microsoft, of course, dominates PC. Not really. There are a lot of players that buy all their stuff through Steam or they buy their stuff through Epic or like, yes, their computer boots up with a Microsoft operating system, but as soon as they can leave that ecosystem, they do. This would get rid of that. So I kind of wonder, and then would it change like Mac support? Would it change? What would this do? There are a lot of people that prefer to operate through Steam because of how they work internationally. That's why Final Fantasy fans, like there are people that live in other countries that prefer to do Final Fantasy through Steam because of what it means for them with money conversion. as opposed to many of us in the US. It's fine. Like I just do mine native on the PC. So I think it would break a lot of stuff. So it's a weird rumor. If it was true at all, it would drastically change the landscape. I don't see anything that tells me to put any real credence in it.
What do you think about the like just the regulatory approval process? We saw like like a major fight just due to the Activision Blizzard deal. I would think that this would be something that would be resisted, but from who? Because I felt like the Activision Blizzard deal was primarily being funded by Sony, who didn't want to see that happen. But now, like, who would be the antithesis outside of just the government?
How many employees does Valve have?
I think it would be government. I think it would be government.
I would have said no. I would say if anyone did anything like that, it would probably be Epic Games. Epic Games would probably be the one that would try and step in and fund something like that if anything like that happened. But I actually feel like they would have less difficulty with this than they would with the Activision deal. And a lot of people think that's weird, but I really do feel like this would go through easy. I'm not saying it would go through easily, but I would think that this might go through easier than the Activision Blizzard deal because they can talk about the fact that Activision Blizzard was already multi-platform. So there was worries that, Xbox buy-in would stop those multi-platform games and they would go exclusive. So that was a worry, Call of Duty. The thing with Steam, though, is if Microsoft did buy Steam, it would mean that some platforms would then go, some games would then go to platforms that wouldn't have existed before.
Yeah.
And there is no belief.
Would they be buying Steam or would they be buying Valve?
They would buy Valve, which would involve.
So they'd have Counter-Strike as well. So like they would have the game developer portion.
Sure.
And they'd have, and that's why I was saying, like, if this ended up ever panning out to be true, they need to marry the announcement with, we really wanted Half-Life 3, guys. And so we're making that to make this happen. It's like, wait, like all of a sudden.
In what version of events did anybody predict Half-Life 3 as an Xbox exclusive because it's first party?
The thing is that they're not like Xbox doesn't have any exclusives. They've gone away from that. And I think
they don't. They're moving away from it.
Well, outside of moving away from it, as soon as they introduce Play Anywhere, so it's on PC, on Xbox, immediately, why do you only need to buy an Xbox if you want to buy an Xbox, and that's going to continue to trickle out as they continue to publish more games on PlayStation and Nintendo, with most likely here on the June 9th event. I'm wondering if they're going to just, I don't know, I think they're going to kind of tiptoe around the issue and just keep gamers kind of guessing, because ultimately the trump card they have in their pocket and have had this whole time is Xbox is a Windows machine. Steam is a Linux machine. That's why one of the reasons why they couldn't get so much adoption. They're doing much better with Steam Deck, so there's definitely an opportunity for that. But I would just say, like, we're just a PC that just conveniently hooks up to your TV. We're not a quote unquote what you have defined as a console up to this point. It's just we're just a mid-range PC that you can run on your computer. I mean, on your TV. What do y'all think?
So I think that, to your point about Xbox tiptoeing, they definitely don't want to play their cards too much to show anything that would make the longtime Xbox fans get more upset, right? They want to make people happy and excited about these games. Ooh. Yeah, and it's a hard thing to do. Like they're in a tough place right now. So I think we're going to see a lot of games announced, and I think games that we already historically have seen to be multi-platform. Like if the new Doom does get announced, I think we'll see that to be multi-platform as well. I don't know if we'll hear anything hardware related.
The hardware at a minimum, I think, is 2026. Yeah. And so we might hear about it more in 2025. I just wonder, like, are they going to just keep dragging, like, because they're going to be announcing more games are coming to PlayStation. I think Starfield with its Shattered Space expansion makes sense that they're going to launch that on the PlayStation at that time. And then it's going to be fun to see everybody's opinion shift about that game dramatically into the positive.
I disagree. I don't think they'll launch it with the expansion. I think they'll wait until slightly after the expansion that way they can get all the sales on Xbox, and then they'll wait.
You don't pick up that many sales. That's one thing Square Enix has learned a hard lesson. They cost, with their exclusivity on time for PS5 for Rebirth, they probably cost themselves in a couple of million units sold, because that hype train has now left, and people will be excited, so they will sell a bunch on PC, but not as much as they would have.
There's a difference though. Rebirth won't be selling with DLC. this will be selling with DLC. You're more likely to compare it with 16 than you are Rebirth.
Okay.
Like they will want the double dip of people buying the Xbox DLC, and then later on they'll announce the PS5 version with the DLC included.
Wes in chat, one second, Mark. Wes in chat says that Microsoft already has contacts with Steam, and Steam gives Microsoft everything they want. There's already integration that Xbox has. They've been publishing their games on Steam. The one thing they don't have on Steam is Game Pass, and I could see whether it's a purchase or we're like whatever kind of move is to say like we want to have Game Pass integrated as many places as possible, because that would then increase the overall value of Game Pass. Imagine being on Steam with Game Pass, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is great. Because right now, if you want Game Pass PC, you have to go into the Microsoft launcher. I've long speculated they'd use Battle.net though, but we still haven't seen any developments in that front. What do you think, Chris?
Phil has been very open about being platform agnostic. He wants to be in as many places as possible. They're a software company. He wants to be in as many places as possible, and anybody that wants to come to the table, he wants to come to the table. So he's willing to work with Epic. He's willing to work with Steam. He's willing to work with anybody. And the history has proven that. The only thing that you don't know about Xbox is where you get to keep working with them if your studio gets acquired. That's it. That's the only group of people that Phil's not working with is the big giant layoffs. And some of that had to be expected. Like we talked about that last week.
That's not shocking news.
It's sad, but it's not alarming. So I think likely that you're going to see strategic partnerships instead of acquisition when it comes to Steam, because I don't know that the IPs that they're trying to get specifically, and I don't know if there's like the advantage of Activision Blizzard was King. Like I think King was the true thing that pushed it over the edge. There isn't something like that. There isn't a vertical that Steam has that Microsoft isn't at least competitive in.
The only thing I could think of is whatever profit margins they lose by selling Microsoft games on Steam, right? It's really a distribution thing, though. It's you're right, though, Chris. Like it's a distribution thing. It really is a matter. And to that point, Chili, about your point about antitrust, like it would be a different division of antitrust law. It'd probably be more similar to what the US went against Microsoft based on Internet Explorer, and I think the EU did too, where it's like your distribution channels being monopolized. It's not really the IP or content. The only other thing I'll add, if that number is true, 16 billion, I don't actually know if that is low. Like the little bit I know about acquisition evaluation is they look at like things like revenue or EBITDA. I can't say that word even though I have an MBA. Yeah. And like Valve's revenue is somewhere between 8 to 13 million estimated per year. So that could almost be double on what they're making from a revenue perspective. So who knows? But yeah, I agree. Like, I don't see the actual value to Microsoft, Chris, besides distribution and some additional profit margins. And I don't know if they actually need to do that.
And also, by the way, I'll bring out a lot of people I've read online have said the fact that, by the way, this is all speculation, and I don't think anyone actually believes this is real, but it's just a nice, fun topic to talk about in case, something like this happens. People keep bringing up, well, Gabe would stop it. Gabe owns the blah, blah, blah. I don't think Gabe would have the ability to stop something like this, even if he wanted to, because from what I can tell, he owned only 50% of Steam, because the rest of it's actually shared between employees. Although it's private, it's shared between all the staff that Valve actually gets, stocks and stuff like that. So he doesn't own 100%. He owns about 50%. But then, I hate to say this, sorry about this again, but I heard a rumor. I heard that he had a divorce, and with the divorce, the wife also took some of the stocks of Valve. So he only, from what I've heard, he owns roughly about 30% of Valve between everything. For at least that's what I've read online. Again, I don't know his personal life, so I don't know how true that is. But yeah, supposedly he owns about 30% of Valve.
So with a market cap of 3.2 billion, that does make 16 billion seem within the realm of like acquisition possibility, because it's like, why, they don't need to sell, right? So it's like then that price just goes up and up and up. What would be interesting regarding antitrust, though, is that with Microsoft's continual push into being just multi-platform distributor, I could see that it's like, yeah, we're going to publish games on Epic, and we're going to do like we're going to commit to doing all this. This isn't antitrust. This is just us kind of controlling one piece of the distribution and save. And they know, like behind the scenes, people aren't going to just like in waves move over to Epic, just like we didn't see everybody leave Twitter to go to Blue Sky. Like these things are like real realities that people have their digital libraries locked into. So it would, in a way, kind of be a hedge against that 30% that they have to cake. And I've long wondered, like, if they would use the Activision Blizzard acquisition to apply leverage to Steam to say, like, hey, we publish so much with you guys. Let's do a 20% deal. You know, let's have a custom carve out for those things. And who knows, those deals could be happening behind the scenes, you know, all the time. We're not privy to that, but we do know that the base rate ends up being 30% for all these companies. Anybody have any other thoughts on the subject?
I don't know. If we find out in a year that this is true, it's going to be another interesting few years, I'm sure, of like just focusing on that topic. But I'm kind of agnostic on feelings towards it. I don't think it would suffer the same consequences as we saw game dev studios being acquired. And to your point, I don't know if that what happened last week, as tragic as it is really a sign of just Microsoft considering what's been happening across the industry at whole.
Yeah.
So
there's people that are getting hired, and unfortunately, we're just seeing the industry in and of itself kind of, you know, shrink down, over the last couple of years, and that, you know, that has that knock-on effect. But I don't think that stops people from wanting to play games, buy games, and make games. It just is like, man, it sucks, but that's why the best thing you can do, if especially you're in an entertainment field, protect yourself. You know, like make sure you will get laid off. Don't think your job's safe, and that will end up making whenever that day does come a lot less painful. All right, let's talk about some Final Fantasy 14 Dawntrail live letter job action trailer, a media tour going on right now across the globe. We're not going to break any kind of, you know, news, but there is a time frame which we kind of can know that the information is going to start rolling out to everybody, and I, for one, am very excited about it. For me, the one topic that I really want us to kind of dive in on, and we can kind of explore any other of the announcements that they made, but it's the controller remapping actions function, and not just controller, it can be done on keyboard and mouse, which I am personally excited about, but people are concerned. And Chili, I'm going to toss to you first, because in our kind of prep chat for the podcast, you're saying it might be a little bit of a mistranslation issue. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes, when it first started being announced on the stream, it sounded like to a lot of people that everything will be becoming a part of the new system where you can turn like 3 buttons. So let's just say circle, X, square. You'll be able to turn your standard GCD into a 1-button combo. That is how a lot of people took it during the live stream. And a lot of people, well, there was a lot of hate that I saw on Twitter because of it. A lot of people were complaining about this new system, saying that they
gone hands on with it. So.
Yeah, nobody's tried it yet. But everyone was complaining about how it'll make the game too easy, and why should I only be able to press 1 button to do my whole combo? You know, pressing 3 buttons is such a challenge. Like, well, it is when I come to later, but like, and no, it seems to me what is happening is that any moves that already convert from another ability to another ability, such as Gnashing Fang on Gunbreaker, you'll be able to toggle that as either the 1 button as it is right now, or toggle it into 2 buttons and have it as 2 separate buttons. This is from Army on Twitter, who translations. So yeah, from what we can tell, that is what's going to be happening. Though, of course, until we actually have a hands on it ourselves. I myself prefer the idea of having everything being able to be transferred as a 1 button. I won't use it. It's not something I would use. But for disability and accessibility reasons, yes, I would prefer that.
The real question is going to be, is there a DPS advantage? And Yoshi P on the live stream said there is not going to be a DPS advantage, but I think players will discover whether that's true or not. We know there's a DPS disadvantage to doing it through macros, And so this essentially will be that evolution, something that I've long called for. I've actually been somebody who's been fighting for a system like this to come in. I called it kind of the stack system, where it's like I want to stack abilities so that I do ability A and then I can do ability B and C. And I think a lot of the one button rotation was just a bunch of fear mongering, because that's not what it would be. There are so many different things that you want to weave in and do different things. It isn't about that. It is I think a two-front issue, a space issue and a pruning of skills issue. And I was like, we either are going to continue to make the early game of this game like incredibly dull, because they're going to take those abilities and they're going to just kind of shift them into the late game. Now what they can do is they can actually bring back old abilities if they choose to, or if nothing else, shift abilities earlier and continue to stack on additional abilities, because you're not going to have to worry about you only have so many spaces. And I know with Endwalker, as opposed to Shadowbringers and even Stormblood, like the amount of extra clicks and things that I have to do on specific jobs, not all jobs, has like ballooned up to be way more difficult in the long run. And there's a part of that that's you want as a player, you want to have a skill level of challenge, but that's what I'm thinking. What do you guys think?
Till we see it, it's really hard to get too judgmental. Now that does write them kind of a blank check, that if there's something wrong, were we supposed to say something now, but we didn't because we wanted to wait. So like we're gonna have to see. There is a lot of room on some of these classes where there is a button that you're not using very often and another button that you're not using very often, and those times don't overlap. And there's no reason those can't be the same button if it's got enough intelligence to it that always knows if I'm trying to use A or B. So like there is room for this to be implemented in a way that doesn't break anything. It just acts as an intelligent macro, where you don't have the DPS loss of macros. The question is, like, does it remove complexity? There are games with small amounts of buttons that have immense complexity. If you've ever played Guitar Hero, if you've ever played Mario, I mean, Mario does not have a lot of commands, and yet very few of us beat Mario games. They're incredibly difficult. So like number of buttons does not immediately equate to complexity, but there's something very satisfying about a big rotation like going well. The question is, what does this do long term as they want to continue adding abilities and having prunes? And then what does this do in synced content? Because every method that they've picked so far has made synced content feel different, and usually for the worse. So my question is this something that can help them better protect what it feels like when you hop into a leveling roulette? Because right now that, like, I just want my buttons. Like some of the levels don't feel good if you're used to playing at max level and you get dropped down. There are just certain level ranges that some classes just don't feel good.
I mean, it's not that it doesn't feel good, but Black Mage just feels like a different job every 10 levels. You don't know what your rotation is every time you jump into leveling roulette as Black Mage.
And that's where my frustration with the level sync system has really come to play, where things like Boja were so nice, because they're just going to be like, all right, if you want to put it on the bar, you can put it on the bar. But things that when you go get synced down and all of a sudden all of those abilities just get completely axed. I was like, one thing that we've advocated for, Chris and I, in the past is literally just like, all right, let us keep our abilities, just nerf them all into the ground. Like, all right, make it kind of trait based to where it's like, you have your full combo, but all those additional hits will never hit the theoretical maximum that, of DPS that you could do anyway. So you're just then practicing your rotation, having some flash, and then also inviting the new players who are like, holy crap, that ability, that looks so cool. And you're like, yeah, it is. Like there's got to be something. Like I would love to see that that brought in as well, especially when it comes to sync content. But what do you guys think about that? Because I know that's also a controversial take.
I mean, I am such a noob compared to all of you with this game, but I will say the first time I leveled down in a roulette and I couldn't use certain abilities, I was confused. Part of me wonders from the development perspective how easy it is to have it that way versus adjusting it that way too when it comes to just all those players getting together. Like that would probably be a lot of work, I imagine.
And old ultimates allow them to do something like if they decide that all the casters starting at level 110 get a raise, that was not how the old ultimates were designed. So by setting that skill to level 101, every piece of content that sinks below 101, it rips that res off the bar. So to your point, it breaks stuff, even if it is technically possible. Like, even if it is technically possible, you are literally changing the way the class plays in the content.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you what Fido said from a WoW perspective. Syncing is not always a great solution. Like, syncing in WoW can feel real goofy. The Mists of Pandaria remix has proven that it is not as simple as just hit the balance button and then hit live. Like it's not. So, you know, we're looking for the best of the options. We're not looking for perfection.
Chili, you got any thoughts on the syncing?
Well, I'm just interested to see what we're doing. I know it's not the syncing, but I'm really interested to see 8.0 stuff now when they kept talking about 8.0 changes. You'd say that, but they kept
confirmed 8.0 is coming, guys. Yes.
It was frustrating the whole stream. They're like, man, this job sounds like fun. Look at all these changes. By the way, more stuff is in 8.0. Okay, great. Thanks. But we haven't even got 7.0. Yeah, and then all the jobs are going to feel more unique in 8.0. Great. What about 7.0? It was really frustrating for me the entire stream. Every time they talked about new job stuff, that was really cool. Well, don't worry, guys. 8.0 is going to be better.
I think 8.0 is going to be better. I think we're still seeing like a lot of work being done, and this is going to be, for me, because when we sit here on live streams and talk about it, I get a lot of people's opinions, and they come in generally and saying like my review and my take on Endwalker became what people felt. It wasn't what they felt right away, but then as time went on, people end up echoing what I was critiquing about the expansion. And I'm actually very excited for Dawntrail because I applaud what they did with Endwalker by ending the story. That took a lot of guts because they could have just kind of kept stringing it along. Another new big bad that's been hiding behind the scenes. No, but they did that. Dawntrail is going to be the new Dawn. It's what does this entail? What does this mean? Are they going to change up the formula in certain kind of areas or degrees? And then that would lead into kind of 8.0, to say like, hey, we've kind of established this. But Chris, you had an expression on your face that was rather charming. What do you think?
The changing of formula, like when people start to use like any loose language that Yoshi says, where he's trying to hide a detail that he's excited about, because the details are where this game gets exciting. But then people kind of view that as like, wow, it's going to be totally different. It's like, no, I put strudel on the blueberry muffins this time. It was always going to be muffins. It was most likely going to be blueberry. But like, I didn't want to talk about it too much because if I accidentally say the word strudel, that was the whole surprise. That's it. Like this whole game is down to these minor little differences. Oh, the vanilla is a nice touch because like we're going to have a spreadsheet stream right after this. And I'm going to go over when every piece of content is going to drop. And I'm going to predict it down to the day. And historically, I've been within 7, maybe 14 days of just about everything except an expansion launch. And that's because those are just so unpredictable. I can predict Moogle Tombstone events. I can predict what their name's going to be. We can predict when dungeons will be here, when raids will be here. So to say like, maybe they're going to change the formula.
For most stuff, I agree with you that you'll be able to predict all of it, except for raids, because I'm worried about this raid tier being late. Like, unless it was a mistranslation, there was talks of it being the normal raid being 4 weeks. They said the raid will be 4 weeks after launch.
Yeah, now, 2 weeks to normal, 2 weeks to Savage.
He said the raid will be 4 weeks up, not raid. I don't know if it was a mistranslation or what, but it also sounded like,
Oh, I thought it was 2 weeks to normal, 2 weeks to Savage. Is he going
normally
4 weeks
it's 2 weeks to normal? Normally it's 2 weeks to normal and 2 weeks to Savage, but supposedly he just said raids will drop in 4 weeks after launch.
Okay.
So this is why I don't know if it was a translation. But
that's not like a drastic formula change. Like I think when people talk drastic formula change, what they're looking for is something more akin to like what WoW does, where they totally reinvent themselves every expansion, which has its own version of disaster that goes with it.
Yeah. But I agree with Midnight, who says Dawntrail's a new starting point. It isn't the worst idea. No, I think it's a good opportunity. The question will be is how do people respond to it? Because if everybody, there's a couple of big content creators in the 14 space, that are frustrated with the game, and if for some reason Dawntrail is just more of the same, I think you're going to end up seeing the same kind of fallout and reaction, where it ends up becoming a game that people check in on every 2 years, when I think the vast majority of people want it to be their home base. And there's a lot of people who make it their home base. There's nothing wrong with whatever you choose to do.
I mean, with the new, talking about that though, with the new, they've got the Return to Eorzea campaign going on right now, where you can log in for free if you've not subscribed for a long time. And I've said this on my podcast, and I've said it on Twitter, and I've said it on different social media platforms, that I would feel like that Final Fantasy 14, you could technically play it as a buy-to-play option if you want to put the time aside and only play during the free login campaign weekends. You could technically turn 14 from a subscription-based model into a buy-to-play model if you only cared about story and only logged in during, like now, where there's a free weekend where you can play the game for free for a specific amount of hours.
You definitely can, especially like if narrative is why you play. People that say, "Oh, you have to play for the story. You have to play for the story," then this is a game you should put down, because it's only coming out with story at this set interval. And that story is a very finite amount. It doesn't have like immense replayability in the standpoint of like a Baldur's Gate, where like your second playthrough is drastically different. There's very little player agency. You're playing through a predetermined story. You're on the rails. And so like, as much as I've been to a theme park and I've ridden the same roller coaster multiple times, I don't want that to be the only roller coaster I read for the rest of my life, because at a certain point, every twist and every turn. And so this is a game that you should absolutely put down. Where it becomes a game that you should not put down is when you move into those MMO elements, when you move into people that raid, or when you move into the RP scene, or when you move into people that are trying to make guild, and so they're getting into the crafting and gathering. Like when you start to treat it as a broader offering than just its MSQ, that's where it starts to be something that has something for the in-between times. And having a standard release schedule tells you when you can take breaks. Everybody here, when we talked about what games we're playing this week, like there are other games in our lives, and some weeks it's 14 that we're talking about, and some weeks it's not. And knowing you have until such and such date to complete whatever game you're working on is a kindness. Like it's really nice. So I don't view the regularity as a downside, but like the pessimistic part of me says, if the gap between expectations and reality is where frustration lives, let's set our expectations for the formula really, really low. And then if they decide to surprise us with Beastmaster coming earlier in the expansion than expected, then that's nothing but joy. But if you sit here and you're like, well, I think they're going to change it up and we're going to get, some new type of content that there's been no evidence of, like, oh, we're going to definitely getting Blitzball, or, oh, we're going to get they're going to let limited jobs into roulettes, or you just start like making stuff up, then you've set yourself up for, well, here it is, the 0.1 patch, and they didn't even do this crazy thing that they never said they were going to do. And we see that time and time again.
You're telling me there's not going to be a patch in Dawntrail where it forces everyone to be Lalafels? I'm out. Bye.
You're gonna be mad.
So disappointing. What do you guys? Any final thoughts? Go ahead, Mark.
Your point there, Chris, about like expectations and reality. I see it a lot with MMOs or MMO lights, but I also see it a lot with games in general. And like sometimes I feel like that comes down to like, what do we expect a game to be? Like games are great. I love video games. I've gamed my entire life, but I feel like I know people who have played games like Destiny, which I'll only go for like the story. I don't enjoy it for the MMO, and they'll put in thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours, and they'll always complain about it. I'm like, why do you keep playing it? Like if it's something that you're going to, and you're like, just play something else, or also realize that like when I come to it, I'm like, I think this is great. Like sure, certain DLCs were better, but like it plays good, it feels good, I'm having a fun time, and now I'm putting it down and walking away. And I like what you said about like expectations, because I do think sometimes we have expectations for games to serve a certain place for us, like in all of our existence, that they can never fulfill. And when you adjust that, I feel like you end up enjoying games more again too.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea. Like the whole point is this should be fun. And I think it's interesting to see when people kind of lose that focus on the fun, and then they end up going and being just generally mad at something. Anybody got any final thoughts before we jump into 20 questions?
I'll say is I caught your reaction to the letter from the developers and the Pictomancer, and all I know about Dawntrail is there's something with Moogle balls or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the actual name for it.
No.
Like okay.
But there's gonna be some hand and mouth and balls and paintings of all of it. I believe they have names that are going to be more confusing than that, but that's like it's, you'll know when you see it.
All right. I'll get there in 4 years, I'm sure. But yeah, I was dying at that.
I mean, you won't have to. No, if you buy Dawntrail, you won't have to get to Dawntrail to play Pictomancer. I think you only have to beat the 2.x series to unlock it.
Okay.
So you only have to beat 2.0, right? I think because I think that's how they made it after a certain amount of jobs.
Yeah, it's
I don't
know if it's you beat it, but then typically it's level 50 or a certain level requirement and a certain part of the story clear.
Okay. Well, I'm almost done with 2.5. I think almost into the first DLC. So.
You will actually then, once you do that, unlock 3 new jobs that are the only 3 jobs that are locked away because they put them behind the story. And ever since Heavensward, they went and said, nope, we're just going to let you play the job and go on. I think that's been the right call.
Well, yeah.
All right, guys.
I think they realized it a bit weird if you couldn't unlock the new jobs in like Endwalker if you had to play 500 hours or whatever.
Oof. Right, I really want to be a Pictomancer. Well, you better buckle the hell up.
It's not for you.
It's not for you, man. Well, thanks I'm glad this was an invitation to come try the game for the first time. It's like, go on. All right, let's play some 20 questions. The rules are simple. You can ask any yes or no question. I will clarify as much as needed, so not to take you guys down the wrong path. But I'm going to tell you right now, I think this is going to be a little bit challenging. Y'all have been winning constantly. I think there's only one loss in the history of 20 questions on the podcast. So we will see. I specifically picked something that I think will be a little bit more of a challenge than usual. I turn it over to you guys. What are your questions?
Was it first released before the year 2000?
Yes.
Did it launch as a console exclusive or platform exclusive?
No.
Okay. That narrows it down.
Okay. It does. Chili, what do you think?
What was that? Was it a platform exclusive? No, right? Sorry, I was opening up Notepad ready.
Yeah.
Was it a Western studio that developed it?
Yes.
Okay. Was it? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
No, go ahead.
So when I think Western Studios, I think, was it a first-person shooter?
It was not.
Okay. We're at what, 4 questions?
Yes, you're at 4.
The fact that it wasn't platform exclusive is incredibly intriguing.
Yeah.
Was it multiplayer?
No. That's 5.
So the only big Western studios that I knew that released multi-platform games that are coming to mind, there's only a few, but I'm sure that's not it.
Is it open world?
No.
Okay, well,
6.
that rules out
Rockstar and
Ubisoft, because I was thinking Assassin's Creed at the time.
That's a good one.
We don't have a genre yet.
We don't.
Y'all do not have a genre. That if you nail the genre, I think you're going to get this really quickly. But I think that's going to be a challenge for you guys to get the genre.
The fact that it was not launched as platform exclusive is I think what's messing with me. Because before 2000, it felt like everything was tied to a platform.
I thought it was after 2000. Well, the question was it before 2000? He said no.
It was after 2000.
I thought it was before
Right.
as well. Is it before or after?
It's before.
It's
I
before
can't remember what he
2000.
said.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's before. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's old. So that's hard.
We could probably, waste a bunch of, not really waste,
Was
but throw
it-
some genre questions.
Well, it's not multiplayer.
Yeah.
Was it an RPG?
No.
Was it, oh gosh, was it a platformer?
No. But kind of. Right. It's not listed as a platformer at all. And that answer is also a hint.
My mind went to Bubsy.
It's not a shooter.
Correct.
Multi-platform. Wild.
So I would maybe advise y'all ask about some of the platforms pre-2000, and that might help. It could burn a bunch of questions though. So
Yeah.
what does multi-platform look like before the year 2000?
I mean, I'll burn one question here. Was it after the 1990s?
Let's see here. Yes, it was after the. Oh well, when you say 1990s, I'm saying 1990
Yeah.
and
Okay.
forward.
So
So
he's putting
yeah,
it somewhere between
Yeah.
January 1st, 1990 at
Yeah.
midnight and January 1st
Yeah,
midnight.
it's just
of
not between
2000.
like the 1990s. So like
Alright.
it's
Yeah.
not 1989.
Some like obscure version of a game that released on ColecoVision and Atari that looked completely different. That still helps us because to your point, Brian,
Yeah.
what did multi-platform look like in the 90s?
Does that
Yeah.
then limit it down
It
to
looks like
Mega
the various
Drive,
like
Super Nintendo?
I mean, it could have been some of the early
Yeah.
like PC equivalents like Atari.
It's, not a platform, but it's kind of a platform. Did it launch? Where are we at with questions?
number 9. So this would be number
No.
10.
Did it launch on the Xbox, PlayStation 2, and GameCube?
No.
Well, that'd be the 2000s, right? Xbox. and
That's true.
PS2 and-
Yeah, look at that bad question for me. My bad.
It's 10.
Was it a puzzle game?
No. It's 11.
Oh no.
Yeah, I mixed that up.
Because there were a ton of like puzzle games that came out on like the Commodore and stuff like that would have really narrowed it down. That could be platformy.
I mean, technically, action adventure can be considered platforming, kind of, if you think about it, because of stuff like.
To clarify, I would not. So y'all don't burn a question. I would not classify action adventure as a platformer in this case. So
Okay, because like I would say, like there is
and that's
some
not, that's not how
platforming
it's
in that.
listed here either. So
Okay, because I would be like, if you're considered it kind of platforming, technically, action adventure can have like jump puzzles and like if I think like Croc is an action adventure game, but it could also be considered a platformer if you think about it.
Did someone rule out Ubisoft somehow earlier?
We ruled out open world.
yeah,
Yeah, open
not
up
an
world, which
open world.
kind of rules out most Ubisoft, except for I guess Prince of Persia's.
In the 90s, what about the Rayman series?
They're platformers, right?
You're still
Like,
thinking
they're-
platformers, and that would
Yeah, so
yeah.
it's too platformy. Okay.
That is
okay.
that is a platformer.
Yeah.
I do like someone's idea of Gex. Sorry.
I wouldn't at this point guess individual games until you narrow it much down. Because
no, I'm not gonna. No, I'm just saying that's interesting.
I mean, there's like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games are like not platformy, but platformy.
They're beat 'em up, right? I wouldn't consider.
But like, so they just, what else do we know about them? So like, let me open them up. So they were on a bunch of platforms. This one was released in '89, so that's not good.
They're made by Konami, weren't they?
Oh God, yeah, that's it. The Western really. Yeah, you're right. Crap. The Western really hurts. Like that really limits it. It feels like an advantage, but
you're gonna feel like that was a cheating answer, but technically it is true.
Well, that makes me even more suspicious. What's a Western studio that people don't think is a Western studio?
Well, it's anyway. I'll shut up because I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah. You're out for blood with this one. I like it.
I was like, I won the C. I think the chat was asking earlier, what's the record? I think y'all have gotten it in 10 questions, and we're at 11 questions, so we haven't beaten the record.
I mean, ideally, it's a game that we've played, but he can't know that.
Again, you can pick something real obscure, real esoteric.
It is both obscure and also you've heard of this, and I won't say anymore.
That was a freebie, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, did that count? That didn't count, right?
I didn't count that. I'm just kind of giving you a couple of hints.
So like Tony Hawk was 2000, right? But that's 2000, so we got to be before that.
No, I think Tony Hawk was before that.
And that's not platformer, but like just trying to get the right generation of game in my head.
Well, Tony Hawk was before that. I'm gonna Google it. Yeah, 1999. So technically.
Okay, did it release on multi-platform? But it's not a platformer.
No, unless you count
and
skateboard,
it was multiplayer.
Yeah,
I think
would.
The first one was multiplayer.
Try and cut down more options.
So I'm trying to just think of like, I have trouble even thinking of Western games from then.
I mean, I can think of a few, but
ooh, I could be way off here, but I don't know how to phrase this question to helpful. Hold on. Is the developer still around?
No.
Okay, so I'm just gonna say
that's a great question. I saw chat ask that.
Yeah. That
was
yeah. So just brainstorming, my mind goes to people like Virgin Games. There's some other ones too.
Oh my God. Imagine if it's Cool Spot.
That's what I was just looking at because that was multi-platform. But a lot of their games were and that's
and it would roll back to the Mountain Dew stuff that we were talking about earlier because it's a soda-based.
Tommy Tallarita did the music for that too. Look at
that.
We're at 11 or 12.
You're at 12.
All right.
8
13,
more.
Right?
That was 12. I gave you a freebie.
Naughty Dogs.
I gave a hint.
Just is Insomniac still around?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're still making Ratchet and Clank.
Well, they're making The Last of Us, right?
Ooh. What? No, never mind. Sorry.
It is still around, right? They're just still doing Wolfenstein stuff and Quake.
Yeah. Doom.
Yeah.
Midway's gone, right? They're not. No, they do. Never mind.
Midway. I think Midway is gone.
Is Gearbox still a thing?
Yeah, Gearbox is a
they
thing.
They
got bought, but I didn't know if they got absorbed.
They just got bought by 2K, where they were a part of Embracer, but Embracer did some stuff.
Yeah, the Embracer stuff's weird.
Midway's been gone since 2013. Companies like Acclaim, right? They're no longer around.
Yeah, Acclaim's not around.
Acclaim and Virgin. That's where my mind goes to.
I might direct you to try to figure out what platform the game, and I wouldn't preface this with launched, but what platform is this on? If you could get the platform, that might help out dramatically. The genre could also help you guys out dramatically.
Silicon Knights as well. That was a studio that doesn't exist anymore.
Oh man, so sad too. They Internal Darkness. I think I would love it if Nintendo brought that back.
Yeah. So we know it launched. Wait, I forget. What was the answer to did it launch as a multi-platform?
It launched as a multi-platform.
Okay.
In the 90s from a Western developer.
But also I'm going to say not day and date multi-platform. There was a little bit of a gap between one platform and the other, but a very small gap. So I would.
That was common, I feel like, back in the day, because they typically made different versions of the game for each platform, which also makes me think this is back. I feel like this would probably be back in like the Sega NES, Super Nintendo days, whenever like games were different for each platform.
Okay, I don't know if this is a really good question, or if it even is worded right. But was it a branded game? If you understand what I mean, like was it like a Disney or a Tony or yeah?
I'm not going to say Disney or Tony or whatever, but I would.
No, but I'm like that's what I mean by branded. Like it's owned by another copy, another.
Yeah,
okay. It's not
the IP that it's inspired off of is owned by another company. Yeah,
yeah, that's what I mean. Like, not that's what I meant. Sorry, I just wanted to clear that. I didn't want you to answer which one of those it was. But like,
that's 13. You got 7 more.
It makes me think of Virgin even more.
I really want to go back to Cool Spot.
If that's it, I'd be so happy as well, Chili. I played that game on the NES, and I had no idea what I was doing, but I enjoyed it because I was like, "That's the guy from 7-Up." Oh, okay.
And it would technically be a platform if you consider the 3D version.
But I'm going to point out it's not a platformer.
Yeah. Was it? What was it based on a? I don't, and correct me if I can't do this, but I want to ask this question was it based on an IP from the food or beverage industry?
No.
So that makes me think it was either TV or movie.
It's a video game IP that it's based off of.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't want to steer y'all wrong.
Okay.
Rip the dream for Cool Spot goes to Hollywood.
Yeah. Chester, the Chester Cheeto video game, Beavis and Butthead video game, they're all at the door. We're at 14?
You're at 14.
Okay. Chris, you've been quiet.
I've been Googling things. And I keep ending up down rabbit holes like the Lemmings and all that. The IP thing.
Because the Lemming branded, so
no, this was before that.
Yeah, I'm saying branded because it's dealing within the video. Like this is something dealing with somebody you guys definitely know, but in a whole different kind of take.
What would be some other good questions? I mean, we could try to narrow down the platform or the genre.
I mean, I kind of like I Am Proot's idea. That could be.
I mean, were Mega Man games Western developed?
No,
Capcom.
And Metal Gear Solid was out of the East, right?
Konami.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the studio is also not around.
Konami's still technically.
I mean, Konami technically is around.
They're in a different gaming industry nowadays.
There was a Jurassic Park game in the 90s.
But it was based on a video game. I think those were made by Virgin as well, right? I guess. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I owned it.
Which one?
One of the Jurassic Park games.
On Sega or Super Nintendo?
Yeah, Sega.
Sega was good.
I had Bucky O'Hare as well. Speaking of branded games.
Wait,
Go ahead.
I'm not. This is not for Brian, by the way. This is for us. Someone said Clay Fighters, but what if it's something even? I'm gonna have to look when the release dates are, because it's branded technically because of the movie Mortal Kombat.
Oh, well, there was a multi-platform Mortal Kombat game that was kind of a platformer, but not really.
Yeah.
That relaunched on N64 and PlayStation.
And that was by a company that doesn't exist anymore, Midway.
Yeah, so that would be Sub-Zero Mythologies.
Yeah.
Where was Midway based?
Chicago. They closed down in 2013.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was also then.
They had Rampage. They had Rampage World Tour too, but that was not multi-platform. And was multiplayer. And it was also published by not multiplayer.
Not multiplayer. Which
was there a Mortal Kombat game that's not multiplayer?
Yeah, Sub-Zero Mythologies.
Yeah, Sub-Zero Mythologies was not multiplayer.
Wanted to love that game, but I hated it. It was hard.
Okay, what platforms did it release on?
N64, PlayStation, and I think that's it.
Is it the only single-player game in that whole?
They made another one, but that was a co-op game, which I think that was Mortal Kombat something Force, but that might have been like 2002, 2000.
And by the way, there was a slight gap between releases. I'm looking at releases now. The October 1st on PlayStation and December 11th on N64. Only a couple of months difference, and then each year is December 2nd and February 12th. That also only a few months different.
Okay, so Brian, was it released on N64?
No.
There goes that dream.
It's 15.
Oh gosh, I feel like we almost need to just be. So if it wasn't released on N64, we could assume it was the generation previous, right?
If it was on Nintendo at all. Multi-platform, it could have been PC and PlayStation.
It could have been.
Yeah.
So that or Sega.
Or there were still Sega consoles at the time.
I mean, no, it wouldn't be PlayStation, right? Because N64 is PlayStation generation.
Yeah, but there was different games that didn't go to N64.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to thread the needle too thin, but
it would be PlayStation and Sega Saturn, I guess, because Tomb Raider didn't go on N64, right?
It did not. Tomb Raider went on Sega Saturn?
Yeah. It was supposed to launch on Sega Saturn, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a Sega Saturn original Tomb Raider.
Tomb Raider came to my mind.
And it was on MS-DOS, by the way. And it's single player. And you would could you consider?
I felt like such a hero being able to boot up my own games on DOS as a kid.
It was a big deal.
It's like I was typing into the Matrix.
Someone said it could have been Atari as well. I don't remember much Ataris in the 90s, but that's just me.
TurboGrafx was them, right?
Maybe that's more of an American thing.
It didn't really do well anywhere.
In Europe, it was mostly Mega Drive that kind of ran.
No, that was
until
Hudson
the late
Soft that made
90s.
TurboGrafx. Atari was making games still in the 90s, though.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
gonna be
Tomb Raider was made by
Core Design,
which is no longer around.
Didn't they eventually come to
Eidos? It was on. That was the publisher. It was on the original PlayStation and Sega Saturn. Is there one of those platforms that you guys want to?
Interesting. I just realized that it was actually on Sega Saturn before PlayStation.
Do you just want to knock out another platform?
Go for it.
Was it released on Sega Saturn?
No.
Oh my god.
16
Well, that
questions.
rules Tomb Raider.
You're at 16. You got 4 more questions. When you get to 2 questions, I will give you another hint as a Hail Mary.
It's a Hail Mary. Okay.
Well, that rules out. I would say that rules out most PlayStation games, to be honest, because I don't think many games were PlayStation and Mega Drive. Well, I guess PlayStation PC.
There's that chance, and I almost don't want to pass it up, like if it was a PlayStation game and a PC game, but I don't know.
Are you asking if this is a PlayStation game?
I was talking to my team. Don't
Yeah, we're talking to ourselves. Sorry.
Just making sure.
But everyone on YouTube is like, we kind of know. Oh yeah, Dreamcast was 98. It could also be Dreamcast.
I'm gonna just give you. I'm gonna give you a hint. Y'all are way too late in the decade.
That's what I was wondering.
It's Mega Drive and SNES.
SNES, Mega Drive, or they were still releasing games on NES that were multi-platform too, but that was mostly done by 1991. So yeah, I would agree with that, Chili. I'm gonna be so sad when we hear this.
Yeah,
I'm loving this. So I was like, all right, good. At least I got you a challenging one.
Mega Drive was Sega Genesis, for those in chat who don't know.
Was Sonic developed in the US?
No, that was...
Yeah, but I guess it technically multi-platform because you had it on the Master System and the Mega Drive, and the Master System version was different than the Mega Drive version of the games.
Oh, it could be something like that.
I thought the Sonic Master System games were at least the ones that, and I would consider Sonic a platformer, dead-on platformer.
I want to jump in on this one for comment from chat and make sure I didn't throw you guys off. We said not in the 90s, so I was saying my qualifier was 1990 and forward. I did not interpret the question as if he was asking if it was released in 1990, but I interpreted it 1990s. Yeah,
anything in the
90s.
decade.
So like it's not 89.
Just in case I threw anybody off here in the game, but also just to clarify that for chat, I was like, no, we're talking about a range of time. Still.
The branded game should help us more than it is.
Yeah, that seems to have kind of hurt you.
I feel.
Oh yeah, Sonic's not a branded game,
isn't it?
What is
Sonic?
Sonic's branded.
Game.
Sonic is a brand.
Yeah, and Donkey Kong's a brand, but like we have to stay Western.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there was a Sonic game that was made by a Western developer on PC and Sega Genesis, Traveler's Tales. I don't think they're still around.
So just to clarify, just to give you guys a little extra guidance, you guys asked about the developer. There are people across this globe with IP that have contracted with other developers. The developer is Western.
Yeah, so to this point, that kind of fits into an example like Traveler's Tales. They made Sonic 3D Blast, which we said when we were too late in the decade, that was for Sega Saturn and PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me... 3D
That's
Blast.
3D Blast was Sega Saturn.
It was Sega Saturn and Genesis and Windows, but that was 96 still, so that was still late.
Yeah.
Someone in chat said other people made Sonic games, and I was like, that's a good point.
Well, yeah, you had like Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, right? I don't know who made that.
Would that be considered a puzzler?
Yeah.
Yeah, then it's not a puzzler.
It could be a Japanese IP developed by a Western studio. I mean, I don't know what else it could be at that point, right? What are the big Japanese brands?
I mean, a video game IP that has value. There's only so many.
We're at 17.
You're at 16. You have not yet
Okay,
asked.
okay.
I've given a couple of juicy hints. So
yeah. Chili, you sounded like you were gonna take a shot.
No.
somebody needs to, or I'm just gonna
Earthworm Jim. When was that? Like that was
Sega Genesis, but that was only Sega Genesis, I think. I'm gonna take a shot if you're okay with me.
Do it. Yeah, do it.
Was it a Sonic game?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
well then.
no.
Shot right in the foot. Earthworm Jim did release on other platforms. I think, Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
That was.
I think I played it on PlayStation. That sounds right, but it didn't even come out on PlayStation. Oh, I played it on Genesis. Must have been Genesis.
No, I think they did a hasty remaster later for Earthworm Jim if you played it later on.
Came out on a lot of stuff. I would think of it as
and I would
branded.
consider Earthworm Jim a platformer.
I would think of it as branded. Was developed by Shiny Entertainment. That's a California-based studio. It did not come out on any of the platforms that we ruled out because it was Sega CD, Super NES, Genesis. The fact that we haven't nailed down a platform sucks. Even across multi-platform.
Or genre, really. Either.
Or genre.
The genre, I think, if you got the genre and the platform, you'd get this game pretty quickly.
That's. But you said it's platform-like.
I'm going to say, it is not listed as a platformer, but when you hear the game, you'll go, there's maybe some there is a loose connection to platforming.
Which I feel like rules out other genres, right? So that rules out probably racing games. Unless there's racing games that had platforming that I can't think of.
That's why I did the puzzler.
That was a good question. That was a good question earlier. That's why it's because
I would agree. The puzzler, because puzzlers feel like platformers, but they're not.
That's a good point. When I thought puzzle, I thought Tetris, but there are puzzles that aren't literally just puzzles.
I mean, technically, I know it's not a platformer game, but games like Portal, where it's like a physics-based puzzle more than an actual puzzle.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I hate Bing so much. And it switched me to Bing, and I didn't.
GPT. Maybe.
Bing's rough. That's a good point, Midnight. Yeah, most races. So yeah, what are genres that are most likely multiplayer that we could rule out? Fighting games, racing games,
sports games.
But it's not an RPG, and I feel like Chili, you already asked if it was like an action adventure, and the answer
was LucasArts still around?
I did not ask if it's an action adventure yet.
I thought someone did.
I asked if it was RPG. He said no.
Yeah, I thought someone asked about action adventure. Well,
I mean, I guess I could ask, but I think I don't know.
That doesn't narrow it down.
Smash Bros is a bit too late. It's between 90s and 2000s.
It's not multiplayer.
And it's
single player.
And it's not exclusive to a platform.
And it was, launched as multi-platform.
What other genres are there?
Metal Gear's Eastern, right?
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh.
Was Monkey Island's branded enough, you think?
That would have been early 90s LucasArts, Tim Schafer, and...
Is LucasArts still around as a game developer?
No, Disney, I think, finally closed them down completely.
Okay.
I think. I do a check.
Yeah, they closed in 2021.
Disney closes studios and then it's like, oh, we're going to get back into gaming. And then they're like, oh, this is really hard. Let's shut it down. And then that's the Disney, thing with gaming.
The later ones have been published by Devolver Digital. The original ones, it was shut down.
But
that's not it's not a platformer. which is good. It's just a single player graphic adventure.
Ryan, you look happy.
This is fun. This is fun.
This is a hard one.
This is, as I said, I was going to challenge you guys with this one. Y'all been on a winning streak.
Yeah.
You've been on a hot streak. I gotta.
Sorry. As Patrick said, I would consider Monkey Island a puzzle game.
Yeah. Story games like that, I think, are puzzly. Myst was fun. I played that I don't know how many times.
Okay. Just trying. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to start throwing away guesses here because it feels like we've narrowed it down a ton, and yet we're still stuck.
So, question to the team: would you consider like brawlers as something that could fit within? Well, that got a reaction from Brian.
No, sorry, I was laughing at Boris. I was laughing.
Oh yeah, that's single player. That's right. Yeah.
Single player is what limits it from.
Yeah, from that. I take it back.
When was the first Fallout? That's not platforming. But they're still around. Yeah, first Fallout was in the 90s.
Well, that developer originally changed, right? From who? But yeah, I don't think that would fit.
And you asked Sonic straight up, and it was
no. Yeah. That was Sierra.
Man, I feel like, and then like Myst was back then. That's a puzzle game.
There was no platforming in that. I mean, I didn't make it far every time I tried, but I don't recall there being. It's just.
You get one more hint after this next question that you ask.
So he said if we nailed down the platform or the genre, it would help us significantly.
When was the original PlayStation released?
94.
There was no PlayStation before that? That's hard to believe. There was not a PlayStation.
They were working with Nintendo to make a Nintendo CD drive, and then Nintendo was like, no, nah, and then like, all right, we're just going to go for it anyway.
What an epic story there.
All right. Did we confirm if it's on PlayStation?
I thought we kind of confirmed that it was before.
Oh, do you want to try to narrow down the year a little more?
We could.
Does that help us?
We could ask if it was between 90 and 93 or something like that.
I mean, that at least, how many games were published in that time? Sure, these days it's like 6 billion, but like back then it wasn't.
I'm fine with that question if you guys are. But I think that just kind of, because then there's still Game Boy, Game Gear, Atari Lynx, Super Nintendo, Sega.
Are you going to ask the question?
I'll defer to my team if we want to use that question on that.
What do you think, Chili? Is there a year range that you feel comfortable with? You want to do like 90 to 92 or 93? What do you think?
I would say 93.
At most 1990 to 1994. I don't know.
I feel like if it wasn't 90 to 93, and that would leave 94, which could still help us.
Okay. So was it published between 1990 and 1993?
Yes. I'm going to give you guys, this isn't the hint that I was promising that I was going to give you. I'm going to give you an additional one. It also was released after 93 on other platforms later. But so if you think about it with that question in mind, you're rock solid. But there are two other platforms that came out after 93 in this game. So you guys asked about Sonic. Here's your big hint. Who else is a very iconic character that you feel represents video games?
Oh, son of a.
It's a me.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's multi-platform. Was there a Mario that was multi-platform?
Yeah, there were a few.
There was a couple that
Okay.
went to the PC, right?
Oh gosh,
wanna-
is it what
you
I
wanna-
is it what
you
I
wanna
think it
ask?
is?
Do you want to ask that question?
Game releases.
There's 2 games that I could think of. I mean, do we want to confirm that?
Sure.
Is it a Mario game?
I wouldn't classify this as a Mario game, but Mario is in it, and his name is associated with this game.
So that leaves 2 games that I could think of that released on either the CDI or did they eventually come to PlayStation as well? No. That's not it.
You got a Hail Mary shot.
How many games do we have left?
1. This is your last question.
Oh, okay.
I thought we had 2.
I
18. I guess 18. Then you asked about if it's Mario. Answer is yes. That's 19. So now you have 1 more left.
so I know a Mario game that released on MS-DOS, Super Nintendo, Microsoft Windows.
Is that Print World?
No. That's Mario's Time Machine.
And that was developed by a.
Oh, that's a great question. 2 developers, Software Toolworks, Radical Entertainment, and Knowledge Adventure. One Canadian, Californian, and Illinois. The last one that was from California got bought by a Chinese company, but
Okay,
I
so
don't
what
think-
years did we get it down to?
90 to 93. This released in 93 and then later released in 94 and
List of games
96.
featuring Mario. Nell Sonic Game Watch. Is that what it is? That's Donkey Kong.
It has Mario in the name.
And it's educational, so
it was
it's not
associated
considered
with.
platforming.
I've played this game multiple times and I never knew what to do.
There's a heavy emphasis on platforming, but it's not considered a platformer.
It has platforming in it.
What game is it?
Mario's
Mario's
Time Machine.
I don't know this game.
Oh, that's a good thing.
I've heard of it, and I played it a little bit via the but
So
I haven't
again,
played it fully.
it originally released in 93 on MS-DOS, then Super Nintendo in 93, and then the NES in 94, and then Microsoft Windows in 96.
What a peculiar.
Oh, it's very peculiar, and I'm upset.
Someone said Luigi games, but those would be too late. Between this, remember, Luigi games were like 2000s. This was
It's
1990.
single player. It's not classified. It's classified as educational, not
I'm gonna
a
stand
platformer.
He's got
I think it's your best bet. It's a good guess. If we miss it, we
Yeah,
miss
go
it.
for it. We
You
missed it. We got a loss. But we did well.
All
I
right.
think we did a good job.
Is it Mario's Time Machine?
It is not.
Oh!
The developers you listed are correct. This game was developed by Software Toolworks, Radical
Oh,
Entertainment,
gosh.
Knowledge Adventure, and they published and made Mario is Missing,
I
an
forgot about that
educational
one.
SNES, NES, PC, MS-DOS. In fact, it released first on MS-DOS in
Another
January of
game I didn't
'93.
play.
Just a couple of days, a month later on NES and SNES, and then eventually came to Macintosh in '94 and Windows in '96.
We were so close, though.
You guys were close.
Good job, everyone.
That was great because I was like, I told you it was going to be hard. So hopefully I didn't steer you wrong with any of my answers.
Man, that was weird. All right.
It's the game where Mario gets kidnapped instead of Peach, and you play as Luigi. I'm both
I'm
happy
Luigi,
and
yes.
upset because that those are so like niche games that I used to
Alright.
always rent, but I hated.
All right. Since you guys did not win, what I'm going to propose as kind of a trade-off is that next week, one of you guys pick the game.
Ooh,
Yeah.
So if you can make the show, y'all talk amongst yourselves. We'll
Okay.
figure it out. Now we need to go raid Chris because we went way long. That
We
was a
went
long
way
game of 20
long.
questions. I do
I
apologize,
think I have to
everybody.
bail out of this one to get into that call, right? Do I?
I'll admit,
go
I-
ahead, go
I-
ahead and jump over there, Chris, and fire it up, and I'll raid you.
Yeah, I'll admit, I snuck off to put dinner on because how late it was getting. I'm like, oh God, I haven't eaten yet. And that's why I was so late to respond to the question, because I'd rushed off to put food on.
1 second.
Like, I got stream tonight. I've got to eat beforehand.
Twitch, gaming to kinda. All right, sweet. And let me go ahead and do the raid. Let's see here. How do I? No channels found. Okay. He hasn't live yet. I got people knocking. Yeah, ads suck, dude. Let's see here. Is he live yet? Oh, good. He's live now.
Buddy, nice to chat with you late to the game. I think this is the first time we've actually chat.
Besides Twitch, yeah, it was nice talking to you. Have a good night, my friend.
You too. And always good to chat with you when we can call.
Yeah, I'm so sorry about the mic issues. I just kept myself quiet because I didn't want to like interfere. I'm so sorry.
It's not your fault. Tech issues.
Cool. There we go. There's the raid going off now. Guys, go give Chris a follow over on his Twitch. And I'm going to send you guys over there now. And then after I hit end on this, it's going to go toss you over to the YouTube side of things as well. Thank you guys for joining us for the live show. Thank you to the amazing guests here. Sorry, Cole, that your mic is messing up, but we're glad that you were here, and hopefully we'll be able to get you on further shows. But without further ado, guys, we're going to wrap up. Love you. We'll see you next week.